Beato and George could be seen in the parlor of the mansion. George was kneeling near Shannon's body as though praying. His face was serious, and there was even sweat on his forehead. However, Beato was the same. Now that she had handed her name over, most of her previous power had been lost. Of course, she still had more than enough power to be called a witch, but compared to the past, it was a very faint thing. George kept praying earnestly and silently. He kept frantically yelling inside his heart, trying to call back the soul of the person he loved. He strongly envisioned his soul leaving his body and searching for her as she wandered through the land of the dead. Beato turned that strong force into magical power that supplemented her own magic. This was magic that, in the past, she could have performed easily without anyone's help. But now, if she didn't rely on someone's assistance, she wouldn't be able to finish the chant, much less succeed. Beato was wearing an even more strained expression than George. It had slipped her mind, but originally, the magic to revive her life was the ultimate hidden art. The abnormal thing was a previous magical power, which could be used over and over with a snap of her fingers. So, the heavy burden on her body and mind was, fundamentally speaking, extremely natural. The strong energy pouring from George was large enough to act as magical power. At first, Beato thought it must be the blood of Kinzo, the sorcerer. However, that probably wasn't it. She had a feeling that Battler had already told her what it was. It had been born from the power of George's sadness at the death of the person he loved, and from the way he had tried his hardest throughout his life, from the warm time spent together with Shannon, to the size of the dream they swore to protect in the future. Is it really possible for humans to take life so seriously, even though they only have a single one? It was only natural. To her, a life didn't mean anything more than the difference between the top and bottom of an Othello piece. If the black represented death, then she thought all you had to do was flip it over again and make it white. However, it was just like that broken vase. To humans in a world without magic, where they cannot return things to the original form, it is very, very natural for them to bet their life and soul. This time, the witch acknowledged it. He was able to hold a magical power that could never reside in witches who didn't understand the value of a life. Why does this thing called the Endless Magic exist? Even though I called myself the Endless Witch, did I forget what the Endless Magic means for 1,000 years? She looked at George's expression again. His searching earnestness was like a lightning bolt. Right now, even if George's body had been burned or smashed by a waterfall, he would probably continue to pray for his beloved without minding it, without noticing it. For the first time, she showed respect for that power. So in that instant, all magical resistance was lost, and the enormous power of George's feelings turned into magical energy in its complete form. The vase was very beautiful, rich with history and value. Even as young as I was, it still forced me to take a deep breath when I witnessed its beauty. But that just made me want to touch it. But the vase easily fell and smashed into pieces. Like a bubble that had popped. It felt as though the time it possessed a form had been just an illusion. Lives are just that fragile, just that easily lost. I realized that my foolish curiosity had led to something that couldn't be undone. No matter how much I regretted it, no matter how much I apologized, the smashed vase wouldn't return back to its original form. A lost life will not return to normal, no matter what happens. I was frightened that, even though my actions had been thoughtless and careless, they had stolen away a life that could never be revived again. Then, I pitied that lost life and cried. I was frightened of myself, the one responsible for its loss, and cried even more. I'm sure grandfather will also cry at the loss of his precious vase. I'm sure that all the people who love grandfather and see him like that will cry. With the loss of a single life, the whole world can be filled with so much sadness. I cried even more at how terrible that was. Beatrice appeared and spoke.
ならばお嬢様、この壺を魔法で蘇らせましょう。それで皆が幸せになれるなら、壺も魔法も精霊たちも喜んでそのために力を貸し、元の姿を取り戻すでしょう。さあさあ、お嬢様、目を閉じて私と一緒にお歌を歌いましょう。さあさあ、目を閉じてごらんなさい。そして思い出してごらんなさい。あなたがどんな姿をしていたのか。それはきっと、とてもとても美しい姿。どうか私に、あの姿をもう一度見せておくれ。
Those words of power knocked forcefully on the door to the land of the dead. The magic of her old self had performed that same forceful knock. However, doing it that way was horribly violent and earned the displeasure of the peacefully sleeping dead. But this time was different. It was very forceful, and yet gentle and loving. The dead near the door opened their eyes and called out to the others that there was a voice calling for someone to come back. The sadness of that voice calling from the outside touched the hearts of the dead, and, trying to respond as quickly as possible, they searched for Shannon's lost soul. And then, they found it. They found the casket in which Shannon was peacefully sleeping. It truly was Shannon's soul sleeping in the land of the dead. Inside the casket that was covered with rose flowers frozen with frost, she was sleeping in peace. The dead silently lifted that casket up. While at a glance, it looked like a funeral march, it had a complete opposite meaning. It was solemn, but filled with joy. The long-forgotten dead were made to remember that they were loved after their deaths, and they were all given a warm sense of peace. Then, as though guided by a warm light from the heavens, Shannon's body floated up out of the casket. The dead watched her go. They squinted at that warm light, offering their respect to this unknown member of the living, who had not lost his love for a person even after their death. Shannon's body was enveloped in the light from the heavens and began to disappear. In the jet-black darkness of the land of the dead, the faint flickering of gold butterflies could be seen. It reminded them of the gentle stars in the night sky, which they had long forgotten. George remembered being told that he must not say anything, and he hurriedly covered his mouth. However, it felt like his heart was trying to jump into his throat, because he had seen Shannon's eyelids shake slightly. Then, those eyelids slowly opened. Shannon's eyes were there, but they were still wrapped in the fog of the land of the dead. However, the human world's warmth, no, her lover's warmth, which had called back her soul, slowly dissolved that fog, and her eyes gradually regained their sparkle. Then, her eyes moved and recognized George. As her lips shook weakly, Shannon definitely said that. The words were very faint, so much so that they normally wouldn't have reached his ears. However, George clearly heard them. He heard the person he cared for, his fiancée, the one he loved most and who should have been dead, call his name once again.
Shannon, わかるかい?
As George said that, he softly pinched Shannon's cheek. It was how George had always responded in the past when Shannon had been surprised by something and had asked if she was dreaming. When Shannon felt a warm touch of George's finger on her cheek, and when George realized that the warmth of the living had already returned to his beloved person's cheek, they both cried. What words should a pair of lovers separated by death celebrate with when they are reunited? The words of the human world are not enough. In short, they had no need of the words of this world. George simply hugged Shannon, who was sitting up without talking. Shannon's strength was still feeble, and putting her arms around George's back took all she had. So George hugged her tightly to make up for that. To stop each other from going once more to a place the other's hand couldn't reach, they hugged each other so tightly and yet so gently. As Shannon's fingers curled around George's back, on her ring finger, the engagement ring George had given her definitely shone. That strong glint certainly wasn't just a sparkle of diamond. That definitely was a magical power that only the two lovers could possibly feel. It was because that strong light existed that they had been able to find her casket in the land of the dead. Beato understood. That ring, no. The feelings of the pair embodied in that ring were a miracle made real. In that moment, George definitely used magic. Beato had done nothing more than help him along. That magic had a power that could only reside in those who knew of the importance of life, who knew what it meant to try with all one's might. It was the power of a miracle, one that the Endless Witch couldn't possibly know of. A miracle that only the power of the finite could give rise to. By now, she had no choice but to accept it. She had to accept that true magical power, exists in the place furthest away from she who called herself a great witch.
彼女が君を生き返らせてくれたんだ。ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。
わらわは何もできなかった。シャノンをよみがえらせたのは、そなたの魔力、そなたの魔法、奇跡を成し遂げる後宮の地。確かに見届けさせてもらったぞ。
ジョージさんが私を。
わらわなど足元にも及ばぬほどの凄まじき魔力であったぞ。わらわなどまだまだ見習いの域を出んのか。今こそ身の程を知ろうぞ。
Beate staggered backwards. Her physical strength was clearly exhausted. She had humbly said that George's power alone had revived Shannon, but Beate had also used all of her magical and physical strength. And she reflected upon how difficult it was to revive a single life, something she'd been able to play around with however she wanted to in the past. The couple kept on embracing each other tightly. By doing that, those feelings that couldn't be communicated with a billion words were shared.
ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。君は僕たちの恩人だ。
ありがとうございます、ベアトリーチェ様。再びジョージ様に会わせてくださったこのご恩を決して忘れません。
よせよせ。愛し合う二人に感謝されては外道の極みと恐れられたわらわにはくすぐったすぎるというものよ。わらわのことは気にするな。存分に再会を祝い合え。
Beate, who was leaning with her back against the wall, slid down the wall and sat. How many centuries had it been since she last grew this tired from using magic? I probably haven't been this tired since the time I first succeeded in magic. Didn't teacher praise me that time? Oh, but didn't I kill that same teacher who praised me? Don't be so naive, Beatrice. Isn't that what killing means?
ようやく魔法の使い方を思い出したようですね。
頭ん中酸欠でカラッカラで思い出すもヘチマもねえぜ。それよりあんた殺したじゃねえかよ。現れるんじゃねえよ。
あなたが未だに私を生かしていますね。だからこうして現れられます。もっともあなたの頭を撫でに来たわけでもありませんが。
無様なわらわをわざわざ嘲笑いに来たかよ。それに隠居までした魔女が今さら頭なんか撫でられちゃ他の魔女の笑い物だぜ。
そうですね。一人前どころか現役を退いたと豪語するあなたなのに、今頃になって魔法の使い方を覚えたなど恥ずかしくて誰にも言えませんね。
だなあ、内緒にしてくれよ、お師匠様。
Beate gazed at the couple hugging each other with a sense of pleasant despondency.
愛か。勝てねえな。
45、データ治療。射撃準備完了。弾種選定、装填。410、射撃2匹。
The gold snake arrow fired by the chesters weaved its way through the bushes in the rose garden, weaved its way through the hedges, and climbed the stone steps towards the mansion's entrance, aiming for the keyhole. It weaved through the corridors and flew into the keyhole on the door to the parlor. It happened in just an instant. One could hardly blame Beato, who was completely worn out, for not noticing it beforehand. Right before Beato's eyes, the gold snake flew in through the keyhole, surrounded the two lovers, and pierced the two hearts in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, the gold snake faithfully pierced a hole through Shannon's chest once more. The two hearts were pierced by that gold snake. No, by that gold sewing thread of the new brutal witch's furniture. And it had happened in an instant, mocking the amount of effort it had taken to revive Shannon. Before Beato's shocked eyes, the two fell over and landed on the floor.
George. Shannon.
ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。わずかの合わせてくれてありがとう。
George spent his last breath thanking Beato, and died alongside the one he loved. The gold snake, which still sewed the two in place, spun like a large cyclone, revolving around the inside of the parlor. It was searching for further prey in that room. Then, the tip of the snake met Beato's gaze. In that instant, Beato was prepared to die. At that moment, Virgilia stood in front of her, the fingers of both her hands drawing a seal. Instantly, gold-colored gold leaf buried the inside of the parlor. It was like a blizzard of gold.
ベアト、今のうちに逃げて。シエスタの黄金宮からは誰も逃れられない。
410標的疾患。200魔法儀マシ。45了解。索敵変更対人画像追尾方式。標的再補足。410へデータリンク。410データ受領。すっとろいに先代様。来て来て来て。着弾。
Prey targeted by the Chester sisters' golden bow did not escape. It could not be blocked. No magical barrier could even dream of blocking it without being multi-layered. The gap opened during that instant of confusion caused by Virgilia's deception magic was Beato's only chance to escape. And it was the only chance to make the sisters confuse Virgilia for Beato. As Virgilia spread her arms wide, blocking the way to her beloved disciple, the gold snake pierced straight through her heart. After sneaking in through the keyhole, the snake shot through George, Shannon, and then Virgilia in an instant, completely failing to notice Beato as she used that instant to escape. As soon as Virgilia saw that Beato had gotten away, she died. The strength left her body, and like gold dust drifting with the wind, her form was erased. Beato completely erased all traces of her magical power, became gold butterflies, and passed through the wall, escaping to the wind and rain outside. Beato felt regret from the bottom of her heart. Why? Because she had been attacked by the new witch? Probably not. Of course, she hated losing her teacher. And even more importantly, Beato was enraged at the barbarism that had boorishly stolen away the reunion between two lovers. Beato had poured out almost all of her magical power to reunite them. Even though the result had been a miracle, the time it took to steal that away had been so ridiculously short. Beato trembled at the barbarous cruelty that had brought about such an abrupt end. Besides, this was the true form of the acts she herself had committed up until that point. So just as strongly as Beato hated the new witch, she also looked at her previous self with disgust. But now, she had to escape. If she was targeted next, she would probably lose her life. To think that a chess player had descended thinking they were like a god, only to be attacked by the pieces.